I think Sean tried to make it work. There's no question. I mean, it's easy to say Sean didn't sign him, didn't trade for him, all that. That's all true. However, Sean is stuck with him, and the cap ramifications forced him to try to make it work to the best of his ability. And I think he got to the point where it just couldn't happen. And like a lot of things that occur, the value of the contract didn't match the value of the performance. And so now you just can't continue to pay good money for bad money. You can't dig a deeper hole. At some point, you have to have the sunk cost fallacy where you just got to say, okay, got to pull the Band-Aid off. We're going to have to get rid of this and move on. And I think that's what they did. I don't think Russell, why would Russell at 35 years old do away with his injury protections? He shouldn't, right? So that's a hard thing for any player to do. That's why you have them, is because you're older and you don't want to lose that. However, that being said, he's not a $48.5 million quarterback per year.
Where do you think we'll start first with Russell Wilson? Where does he go from here? Is there a market when he's released this offseason for a team in need of a veteran quarterback?
Well, he has a no trade clause in his contract, so it's impossible for the Broncos. Nobody's going to take on the contract, which shows you the contract isn't really what you want it to be. Now, what is his market value? I think that's yet to be determined. Derek Carr went out in the market last year and he got almost $40 million in the market. Can Russell do that? I think this is going to have to be a conversation with the team and him to feel like, where are you? Where can you go? Because the last 3 seasons of Russell's career have not been good, have not been good. And I think there's got to have to be some explanation for that.
Are there any teams that you look at and, think how things play out that could use them, that he could be the quarterback that they're missing?
Oh, I think there's a ton of teams. I mean, look, Atlanta needs a quarterback, right? New England needs a quarterback. Washington, there's so many teams that need a quarterback, and there's not enough to go around. So I think he'll be certainly explored, but I think the conversation between Russell and the team is going to be really important because, look, Russell wasn't, the most popular Seattle Seahawk up there. There was always a little bit of a disconnect. Now you got to work through that.
Jarrett Stidham's going to start the next 2 games. Do you think it's like a sort of a tryout that he could potentially be their future quarterback, or is this just a stopgap for them as well?
Well, I think it could be. I mean, look, the Raiders, when they did the Carr thing, everybody wanted to do the Carr thing in the organization going back to Jack Del Rio. It didn't happen. When they finally made the Carr decision, the mistake they made was they didn't sign Stidham. That really hurt them. I think that ultimately cost them a lot of their jobs there. So I think Stidham can certainly prove himself. He played the one good game against the 49ers last year, didn't play the second game against the Chiefs as well. But I think it's Sean's offense. I think he'll do well. And, look, they're going to be in cap hell. So the idea that they're going to go out and spend for another quarterback is not real. They have to make it work with a young quarterback on a rookie contract or a young quarterback on a very modest contract.
Did you see this coming when Sean Payton took the job? Everyone thought that this at some point wasn't going to work between Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. Was this expected?
No, I think it was expected because of the contract, right? Remember, when they traded, this is going to go down as the all-time worst trade because of the contract. When George Payton made this trade, he then, instead of waiting, he redid the contract. He had 2 more years on a contract with Seattle that he traded for. He could have easily waited a year and said, like Matthew Stafford waited a year to get paid. Jared Goff is still on his Ram contract with the Lions. So he could have waited, but he didn't. And I think that's the biggest mistake here. This was never going to work because his play never matched the contract. And when that happens, there's an inequity that goes on, and it's like a bank loan. When the property is being held isn't worth what the loan is for, that's called foreclosure. This is what happened.
You've seen a lot of moves in your career in front offices, and you mentioned that this could be one of the worst trades of all time. Do you see it like that? Not the trade, the contract.
No, I think when you add the contract and the trade, it's the worst of all time. I just finished that book, Football Done Right, which came out in September, talked about the John Hadl trade, where the Packers traded a 1, a 2. They called it the Lawrence Welk trade, a 1, a 2, and a 3, like he would start his TV show. And that was thought of as the worst trade. Then the Herschel Walker trade was thought of as the worst trade. but none of those trades had contracts attached to them that impact the salary cap in future years. Russell will move from Denver. He'll sell that big home in Denver, but his cap problems will remain for 2 more years.